Morning everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest budget that we've got ongoing here and what my thoughts are about it and how I think this will impact us as investors if we're investing in UK stocks. So I've got this article here by Yahoo Finance and it is titled Budget 2023, Childcare, Pensions, Tax Benefits, the key takeaways from Jeremy Hunt's statement. Now it says here the budget was meant to be boring, but Chancellor Jeremy Hunt didn't get the memo. In the run-up to the announcement and in the speech itself, there were big changes for childcare, pensions, benefits and energy bills, so it's worth knowing what's on the list and what's for you. Now, from what I can gather here, they say that there was one big announcement was the plan to offer 30 free hours of childcare for working parents with children aged from 9 months to 3 years, and this will be phased in from September 2025. Basically, it's dependent on how the government funds this. However, they're also going to have some £600 sign-on bonuses for new childcare workers, and it basically says here at the end that a lot of parents are more likely to fall behind on bills and debt repayments, as you've got 9% of couples with kids facing arrears compared to 8% overall, and that single parents are more likely to struggle with 23% of them in arrears. Now, this is interesting because what they're doing here with these childcare benefits, and you'll notice that for school-age children, they're going to be obviously extending the time that would be available. That's the goal. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to encourage more adults in the workplace. They're trying to reduce the stress or uncertainty of not being able to pay for childcare, and therefore suggesting that it's more worthwhile to work than to, let's say, claim some form of benefit or universal credit in which it would support you slightly, because I'm pretty sure that you can obviously work part-time as well as get this funding and support from the government. So what they're trying to do here is say, well, hang on, look, your kids can get looked after, we'll encourage this for free from 9 months to 3 years old, and then when they're at school ages, look, they can stay there from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's great, right? That means you've got all the time in the world to go to work, get yourself prepared, pick up the kids and deal with that, which is a step in the direction of trying to reduce unemployment. And there's a very similar trend with benefits. They're saying that they're trying to reform disability benefits and encourage people to work more hours. They'll try and separate the benefit entitlement from people's ability to work so people can always seek work without being reassessed for disability benefits. This is quite a big factor because a lot of those that are, for instance, claiming disability, they obviously may be in a situation where they might be able to work, but are concerned that obviously the government will just go, well, hang on, if you're able to work, we're going to reduce your disability benefit. And obviously then, so it's kind of hard for those people that might have an injury that does impact their daily life and that does have a big impact on their overall lifestyle, but they could possibly work, but perhaps choose not to, because they don't want to obviously lose their funding from the government. But it's a very similar trend to childcare here. They're trying to push people back into the workplace again. There's also some big changes on pensions here, and this is very important to everyone watching this video. So they've said here that there were 3 big changes announced for pensions. For those that have already retired and now considering returning to work, perhaps the most important is the money purchase annual allowance, right? And they've broken it down themselves, and they've said that essentially it means that once you have accessed your tax-free cash from a defined contribution pension, you aren't able to pay in more than £4,000 a year into your pension. So it seems like in some ways that some people could obviously access the defined benefit pension and then obviously return to work and start paying into it again, which again might have its own advantages. What they've done here is they've said, look, you've got to make this a big choice, and perhaps now individuals looking to retire might hold off a little bit longer so they make sure they've got enough adequate money in their tax-free pension, especially when you're considering the impact of inheritance tax, which I do believe pensions are the only shelter of. However, I could completely be wrong here, so I hope someone in the comment section down below can correct me on that. Now it says, it means that if you return to work with the aim of rebuilding your pension, this would stop you from cracking on with it. And it says here the change will mean that from April you can pay in £10,000 in any tax year, which will be an awful lot of savers. Now, I'm not sure what this means here because there's different limits in different places. So I think we're missing a bit of crucial information. I'm going to exclude that for now. Perhaps that means that if you're not in the workforce or the workplace, you can pay in £10,000 a year, whereas it used to be £4,000 outside of work. So I'm a little bit curious there. Anyway. It says here that they said they've also abolished the lifetime allowance, which is the maximum you can hold in your pension during the lifetime. I believe this was about £1.02 million, and they kept reducing it for a while. So effectively what they've done here is they've said, look, you can work for as long as you want. Your pension does no longer have a lifetime allowance. This is a huge move if it remains consistent. Now, the concern for someone, especially in my demographic or my age, I'm 23 years old. I have no guarantee that a pension is going to have a lifetime allowance in 20, 30, 40 years. It might have been removed, or the plans to remove it are in place now. But what's the guarantee they don't reintroduce it in the future and I get sat with a massive tax bill? But I guess that's the kind of risk that you can't control. And so realistically, all you can do is just save as best as you can, invest as best as you can, and I guess hope that it works in your favor, really, or vote with your minds. But again, that gets very political. They've also said here that the annual allowance has actually risen from £40,000 to £60,000. Now, this impacts obviously the higher earners because they're able to deposit more. They can get tax relief as higher tax payers. And effectively, this is huge for people with their own SIPs or self-invested personal pensions because they're able to obviously chuck in serious amounts of money. The previous allowance being the £40,000, it really means that now if you're looking to invest your capital in the UK and if you're in a high tax band, this is now one of the most favourable areas to park your money. However, it should be noted that obviously you've got restrictions on withdrawal. So you've got the stocks and shares ISA that certainly does have a lot of value on its own and is one to consider. I think realistically, if you had, let's say, a lot of money to invest, I think you'd start with an ISA and you were looking to obviously invest in stocks and shares and diversified funds. Then you'd probably start with the ISA, max out the allowance each year on that. You'd probably also include a lifetime ISA if you're looking to buy a property as well, so they complement each other very well. Then you'd probably max out your SIP contributions, which quite frankly are very unlikely unless you are making some serious dough. And then you'd probably move to a general investment account, but I'm sure there's other tax advantages. You could probably look into the property market a little bit further, see what kind of local council grants are available, at which point obviously perhaps then it's not as worthwhile. But again, that's really your unique situation and what you'd like to do. They've also mentioned energy bills here, and they've said that the rise in the energy price guarantee from £2,500 to £3,000 in April has been shelved. And it says that obviously a lot of people are finding it difficult at the moment because the energy bill rebates of £67 a month will stop this month. However, what they have said is that when wholesale prices fall to take the energy price cap below £2,500, it will revert to that instead. So effectively what they're expecting is that you've got until July to hold on for now, and then hopefully the cap is forecast to be about £2,100 and it would drop to about that level as obviously they go through their previously higher cost inventory, and hopefully it will sustainably decrease. Although coming up to the next winter, perhaps there could be some concerns in place there, although I'm not specialised in this field whatsoever and perhaps I'm missing some critical information here, but it might be worthwhile trying to save the difference rather than just spend it on other things, unless obviously the lifestyle change is a big thing for you as well. They also talk about duty here, and I think duty is probably the most impactful for UK businesses here. And really what they're saying is that the fuel duty has been frozen, so that 5p duty cut that was due to come to an end has obviously got another year. Great, obviously, as they say, for drivers here. Deliveries as well could be quite key, so obviously, yeah, you've got your delivery drivers that perhaps is going to help restrict the cost of obviously distribution at the moment in some minor way, but across obviously loads of businesses across the UK it would have a greater impact. That said, I think fuel prices are doing all right at the moment, and it says here that they're about 148 today. Admittedly, I've been off the motorcycle for the last 3 months now, so I'm not fully up to date with fuel prices at the moment, so I'm not quite so sure, although I'm in a part of the country near Watford where we have some of the lowest petrol prices in the country, so again I'd probably see a more extreme variant of that. But they have also mentioned here that the tax on alcohol will rise by 10.1% in August, but there's a separate rule for draft beer in pubs, which means the duty on draft pints is 11p lower than in supermarkets. So does that mean, like right now, we should be buying hospitality? Is hospitality stocks, your pub stocks, your Mitchells and Butler, your JDW, your Green King, Are these the type of businesses you should be buying now? And realistically, I don't think that's a big enough change. The advantage that supermarkets have in this respect is that they're able to loss lead with some alcohol brands that encourage customers into the shop. They'll go in and go, you know what, I can buy gin for £14 for a litre. Now, I'm definitely not up to date with prices on this, so don't correct me on that. And they'll go, yeah, brilliant. Well, I might as well drink at home. It's far cheaper than going down the local pub. Now, what they've said here is there's an advantage in the pubs that they can sell draft beers at a lower price, but realistically, it's not going to be a huge difference when, again, supermarkets still have that advantage. It's not a big enough change, and it still impacts them. That said, I don't think I'd invest in hospitality and or the supermarkets. I just think a lot of their business model is constricted by, obviously, their workforce, and because their workforce is very large with minimum wages, the increases in like the national living wage and more obviously have a great impact on their overall profitability because core wage represents such a huge portion of their business models. That said, it's certainly one to be keeping an eye on because a lot of these businesses have been quite beaten up, especially in the hospitality industry. So certainly something to be keeping a watchful eye. Regarding my portfolio, I mean, I'm down quite a significant amount this week, probably about £1,800. Again, I kind of drown out the noise as time goes on. Realistically, my balance is about 22,700 or £800 here, and I'm down 16.7k since I started investing. We've had a really good run up so far this year, and obviously we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown now. When it eventually loads, you'll see the graph, and that I'm not too bothered about the short term. I'm just going to continue depositing here. You can see this trend. See how from October, the portfolio was effectively half of what it is now, and it's certainly been rallying up, and this has been really pushed by recovery. Some of my beaten up stocks I'd had a high loss on, like Boohoo. Boohoo is obviously struggling at the moment because they're down 5% on Friday alone. That said, as time goes on, as let's say the picture becomes clearer, as things look a little bit more promising for the company, that'll do well. My mistake previously is that I was buying the dip on Boohoo consistently, whereas I lacked patience, I lacked discipline in the idea that I could buy the stock at a fair value, and then obviously if it dropped below that, go, okay, I've made a mistake in my valuation, is it still worth buying? I think I bought too much too early, which is easy in hindsight, and I'm holding fire for now. I'm waiting for a trading update that says, hey, look, we're seeing some good growth here, not just revenue growth, but we're seeing profitability again. And sure, by then, the share price might be 30, 40, or 50% higher than it is now, but at least I can average down knowing that I'm buying the quality company that I first bought. This week, though, I have been buying some shares. I bought 2 more shares of Games Workshop and an additional 2 shares of the London Stock Exchange Group. The UK stocks seem to be especially beaten up following this budget, and obviously the outlook clearly doesn't look too promising overall, hence why I think they're getting beaten up to quite a high extreme. Google has done very well in the last week, and they're up about 8% overall, that position. So obviously I'm going to look to chip away and add to these positions over time. But if you haven't seen my life update video, I am going to be lowering my monthly contributions into the portfolio as I am going to be moving out of my current place. And I think realistically it's a good opportunity to obviously become more knowledgeable in that field. And I think realistically when you have more pressure, more costs to deal with, you become more likely to push on and to try and maximize income. At least in my mind, that's how I would work. If I'm seeing more of my money be removed for things that I can't control in terms of cost, then I'm going to have to go, well, if I can't control the cost, I'm going to maximize the income stream in order to invest and obviously create more wealth over the longer term. So thank you for watching today. I appreciate it's been a long one. If you haven't already, definitely click that subscribe button down below and don't forget to drop one of these. I hope you've had a fantastic day.